Recently, I had an experience that helped me understand a bit better neurodiversity and how to make space for yourself when you're in a world that people don't immediately are aware of neurodivergent people. So, I am neurodivergent. I have ADHD, and I was recently diagnosed and got medication probably 6 months ago. And I'm 27 years old, so pretty late, I guess. But um, becoming aware of being neurodiverse is, at least the awareness helps because it helps me, I think, navigate social situations a bit better because I'm not forcing myself to mask. I'm not forcing myself to like try to conform with the behaviors of the people around me, and I'm able to give myself like compassion and stand in my power. So the events that happened was that I was at the hairdresser getting my hair done, and usually like I have like scalp sensitivity, like it always has been a problem to take care of my hair, especially when someone else is doing it. So I was at this hairdresser for the first time. I haven't seen this person before. And because of like the whole sensory thing going on, I just wasn't talking that much. I usually don't really feel like talking if I'm around someone, let's say in an Uber or getting my nails done. Not that I not that I think it's rude, it's just I have a hard time with small talk, and being having to be in that environment with a stranger that you're probably not going to see anymore. It's hard for me to find motivation to participate in conversation, right? I'm also most of the type, if someone is talking to me, of course I will respond, but I'm not going to be the one who's going to like engage or bring up something on my own, despite me having ADHD. But I don't know, I feel like I tend to be more chatty when I'm around someone that I actually want to talk to and want to get to know on a personal level, as opposed to just having a conversation just because the other person is uncomfortable with silence, right? So at this hair salon, I wasn't talking much. And at one point, there were other hairdressers. They were talking with all the clients. There was probably like, we were like four clients and four hairdressers. And one of the hairdressers were asking us questions like, like vacation plans, what we did for a living, stuff like that. And yeah, same. Like I just would answer whatever question, but I wasn't really like saying much, right? And then who cares? Because I'm just here to get my hair done. I'm not really interested in knowing what other people do for a living, like whatever. And so the person who was doing my hair, all of a sudden, they started in front of everyone saying out loud, mentioning that I wasn't talking much or not enough. And I feel like I was like being exposed and put on the spot at that moment. It was so uncomfortable. I felt weird because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I feel like I wanted to act that way because that's how I felt more comfortable. But the fact that they pointed that out, I almost felt like, well, at first I wasn't even sure. I was really confused. I started feeling guilty, or I was questioning myself. I was wondering, was I being weird or rude? Um, and it's this kind of situation that it made me realize that being able to communicate your needs to someone is super important. As neurodiverse people, I think we must first um, learn more about ourselves. Like, who are we? What are our needs? What are our boundaries, you know, what are our sensitivities or our sensory issues. And we need to know exactly what we need, because once you know your needs, you're going to be able to communicate that to the other person who's probably, you know, a neurotypical. Not only that, but also to be able to um, gain access to accommodations that you would need that a neurotypical person probably doesn't need. And as a neurodivergent person, it's super important because, yeah, like in those spaces, we tend to, well, everyone tends to assume that everyone is neurotypical. Maybe on a statistic level, most of those people will usually interact with people who are like them. And so they're going to expect certain behaviors. And I can understand that. I know I tend to mask a lot, so I probably don't seem autistic first off, just by the way I carry myself. But I remember in that situation, I could have at least like disclosed that I'm neurodivergent, or not even just disclose it, but yeah, become aware of how people might perceive my behavior, which is completely valid, but to their perspective, they probably don't really know what's going on. And yeah, being able to communicate my needs is something that I should work more on. I definitely feel awkward about doing it though, because since I have received my diagnosis so recently, I'm kind of getting used to having this label on me and become more aware of how it works and functions in my life. So yeah, I don't even know like how that kind of conversation would go. You know, telling someone like a disclaimer that you're autistic, it kind of sucks. Like I feel like we should live in a world where we don't have to do that, but I think as neurodivergent people, I think we need to do it more and more, because sometimes neurotypicals, some of them can be very understanding and compassionate. You know, some would probably love to know that you have a special need or a certain accommodation that they have to keep in mind or provide to you. Some of them would love to know that, because I feel like there's so much friction that is unnecessary. Because if people understand, like, oh, this person is autistic, you know, they have a hard time communicating, so they would rather get their hair done in silence. Once they keep that in mind, I think they become more aware that different people have different needs, and that as long as that need is not causing harm to anyone else or to that person, then there's no problem, and it would be even beneficial for everyone, because that means that person would be more comfortable. And in return, if they're comfortable, and everyone else can be comfortable, right? Like, I feel like for me, when I was getting my hair done, there was like at one point some sort of awkwardness in the room, like, because I was the one standing out because of the way I was acting. And it's almost like the other people didn't know like what to do with me, or you probably took the fact that I didn't want to talk personally or something like that. So it creates more friction in a space where there probably shouldn't have ever been any friction at all. Usually as neurodivergent people, we have this feeling that the world doesn't have a place for us, you know, like spaces are not designed for us, or things are not designed for people like us in mind. And I feel like that idea or that concept, it isn't exactly true, right? It is it's up to us to make that space for us. It's up to us to advocate for ourselves, to, you know ourselves well enough to know, well, what works for us. And yeah, being able to communicate our needs is really what's going to, I think, make space. It's going to help make space and let other people know this is who I am, and help them also step into this feeling of acceptance. You know, when people know who you are, you're able to share that. I think people tend to feel more acceptance. They can just, radically accept that this is who you are and these are your needs.